our meeting is taking place in Zoom today. You are muted, and I would like you to stay muted during our webinar. If you have questions at some point, you're very welcome to put them up in Slido. You can also see that in the chat, and my colleague Peter will say a few more words about it. You're welcome to keep your camera on, but don't worry, on the recording, it's only Peter and I who will be visible. And I think that's it for now. Peter, what do we have in store for our participants today?
Yes, I try to switch the slides. Yes, why we are here today. Actually, the objective of this webinar is to provide you more information about the intervention logic and the use of indicators in the North program. Correct use of indicators is key to have a successful application. To work with indicators, you need to understand how they are defined and used by the program, and how you should understand the different terms in the application form, for example. Our little agenda for today is a short reminder what we have communicated already previously with regard the indicators and the intervention logic. We will highlight some points to remember to take with you from this webinar when you are writing your application, in order to have a win-win situation that you will be able to explain what do you want to achieve with your project, and on the other side of the coin, the assessors will understand what you want to achieve with your project. Last but not least, we will open up for questions, and we try to do our best to answer your questions. Please, for that, use Slido, as it was mentioned by Jenny already. Go to Slido and enter the code, what you can see on the screen, 332719. Don't worry, in the left bottom corner, you can see this code repeatedly in the slides.
Yeah, and just an add-on, you're also welcome to vote for questions. So if you see a question that you think is really, really relevant also for you, then just vote for it, and then it will be prioritized and go up on the list.
That's correct. So let's start with a short recap or reminder what we have available already with regard to this topic. Today is 22nd of the second month in 2022. So why not to refer to fact sheet number 22? This way, that we did it on purpose, of course, you won't forget which fact sheet to look at with regard intervention logic and indicators. You find this fact sheet among the other fact sheets on the website. And also, we have recorded last year a webinar called Project Goals at the 8th of November, which is also available on our website. You go to the website Future Program and you search for events, and you will find it very easily. Yes, so please check always this fact sheet later on, and together with this webinar and the previous one. And now we start our real webinar, and I'm asking Jenny to take the floor on this chessboard.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. So we will get started with the content now, and you see a chessboard in front of you. You might ask yourself why, and I can tell you there's a good reason why. Because when playing chess, you have to think ahead, and one step you make will influence the next. And that is actually very similar to our intervention logic of the North Sea region program. If you look at the different building blocks, they remind very much of the different steps on a chessboard because they are all interlinked. And again, one step you take is influencing the next. When thinking about the intervention logic and the connected indicators, you really have to think it through from the start. And if I may put it that way, you also need to squeeze it into the application form that you can find in the online monitoring system. And that's exactly the reason why we are here. Peter and I have decided to focus on one specific part of the intervention logic, and that is mainly located around the work packages where you have to work with the different indicators. How are we going to do that? Peter has already mentioned a little bit. So we will, on the next slide, as you can see, we will have a short recap of what work packages are, what activities deliverables are, and what outputs are. And we are then inviting you on a short journey into the online monitoring system because we have made some screenshots for you so that you will get a better idea about what you have to fill in and how it all connects together in the online monitoring system. So let's get started, Peter. Can you tell us or our participants what a work package is?
I try to do my best, and I came up with this very simple visualization. When you define your overall objective of the project, then you get to the work packages and you define your work package objective. Also, you think about what will be the outputs of this work package when you achieve this objective at the end of the implementation of the work package. You are doing it through different activities. And so in a very short answer or sentence, I could say that the work package is a bunch of activities which deliver the outputs at the end of the work package implementation. In general, we are talking about work packages, but for example, in the small scale project, applicants will have only one work package. Just a side note to this. In a work package, you should think actually through what you are going to do in a logical order, starting with an easy explanation, starting with the planning of certain activities, then meeting with other partners, stakeholders, participating external events and so on. So the logical order of activities will build up your work package. But how does it look in the monitoring system? I'm asking Jenny.
Yes, and I have a screenshot for you on this slide. It is taken from a full application from the online monitoring system. And you can find the work packages when clicking on the button Work Plan. So you can create new work packages and you can also edit work packages. The first circle that you can see here on the slide, that is actually a title. It's a test or an example that Peter and I have made, but it's the title of the first work package, Solutions for Storm Damage. Of course, it depends on what your project will be about, but this is our example case. And the two arrows on the slide, they are indicating that for each and every work package, you have to come up with a work package objective and a communication objective. This is really important because it tells us, or it also tells you, what the work package is supposed to achieve. And please be informed in a short takeaway notification here in the left bottom corner that the work package objective and the communication objective, they are obligatory. Easy, I would say, about work packages. How about activities and deliverables, Peter?
Yes, as we said, work package is a logically thought through bunch of activities. An activity is a specific task performed by the project partners, for which resources are used: money, human resources, you name it. So this is an activity, for example, discussion with partners. How do we measure it? Whether it is happening or it has happened or not. Then we use deliverables, which are quantifying the activities. So in this example, that will be a number of meetings, internal meetings, external meetings, and then you can put a target number next to it, and then it will be measurable. And now back again, how does it really look in the monitoring system?
Yeah, an impression of the online monitoring system. It's again our example case. And as you can see here, we have listed 6 different activities. Keep in mind, those are only examples. When you are working with your own work package, you really have to think it through and come up with your own descriptions, your own titles. Titles are the descriptions you can see here on the screen in bold. So for example, internal pilot plans, meet with the partners, and so on and so forth. The description is always what can be found below. On top of that, when working with activities, you have to, as Peter has mentioned, come up with a quantifier, so a deliverable. It's very easy because it's a drop-down menu. So you can only choose between 6 different deliverables from a drop-down menu and really categorize and quantify the activity you are describing there. You always have to come up with a target for the deliverable chosen. So far, so good. How about output indicators? What are those, Peter?
Yes, in general, we talked about outputs of a work package, which will be defined by you. You will see later on how does it look in the OMS. The outputs are actually the outcomes of the activities funded. So telling us what has actually been produced for the money the project received as funding. Those outputs are project specific, as I said, but they are captured by predefined output indicators. Now we can say that it's an easy task. It seems to be easy because you have only 2 output indicators you have to choose from. Those 2 are being either pilots jointly developed and implemented, or strategies, action plans jointly developed. This is about the outputs. Let's see how does it look in the OMS.
Yes, on the next slide. And it's again our example. And you have mentioned there's the possibility to choose between 2 different output indicators. This is now an example where we are using the output indicator pilot actions developed jointly and implemented in projects. So this is what we have chosen from the drop-down menu. And then in the next column, so to say, highlighted by the red circle, it's very similar to what we have seen before, for example, when working with activities or deliverables. We need to again see a title from you and a description. And keep in mind, this is only a simple example that we have come up with. So you should elaborate a bit more and come up with a very good title that is really describing what your output is about. Again, last but not least, a target is needed for the output. And I just want to highlight one more time that really the outputs are created on work package level. So, yeah, maybe a short summary.
Yeah, just to sum up what we have talked about so far, is it 3 main elements of work packages, of a work package. Activity, the tasks that have to be carried out by you, by the project, to reach the work package objective. You measure those activities one by one individually with a deliverable chosen from a drop-down menu, quantifying the activities, giving them target value. And as a whole work package output, as an outcome of those activities on work package level, should be defined and captured by an output indicator. Now, you could see on the screenshots already this example we come up with during the last weekend. I don't know why, these storm damages. Somehow we were reminded that we are in the region which are actually exposed to severe storms. So why not to do something about it? And this is a work package objective, an example, an idea, just to explain you again those terms we are using in the application form. So let's see, on the left-hand side, you see the activities in this work package. Sorry, the work package objective is to find solutions for minimalizing damage in buildings caused by storms. It sounds very exciting, right? The activities we plan, we start with the planning, the actions to be carried out by the partners, maybe a manual for storm damage pilot activities or actions. Then the deliverable next to it will be another, that's a real category in the monitoring system. And then you say, let's have 3 pilots, so we will need 3 pilot plans. This is a deliverable. Then, of course, you have to align internally with your partners, with stakeholders. How do you set up a pilot like this? This is an internal event. Let's say you will have 5 of it. Gathering storm-related data as a starting point seems logical. You have the deliverable next to it as a data collection activity. Following the implementation on the storm damage pilot on social media channels. This is corresponding, I haven't highlighted it, this is corresponding to the communication objective of this work package. So it is a communication initiative. You can put a target number next to it as well. Installing an equipment for the pilots. This is also another category. You define it, and publication on the results of the pilots. That's rather the end stage of this work package. The output corresponds, as I said, or as we said previously, corresponds to the work package objective. This is what you want to achieve concretely. Storm damage pilots testing solutions to minimize damage caused in buildings by storms. And you choose the predefined output indicator, in this case, pilot actions developed jointly and implemented in projects. And you say, we will have 3 pilots or 5. Depends, of course. Again, this is just an example, a very good one. We are very proud of it, but and a very relevant one, by the way.
But a simple one.
But a simple
one, we have to mention.
This is what you can see also in the screenshots. So these are the examples on the screenshots you read on the previous slides. A very important message here to take with you after this webinar is, of course, you will have several activities, deliverables in a work package contributing to one output. In a work package, you can pile it up so you can have more outputs, but definitely there will be several activities contributing to one output. Whenever you putting a target next to this output as an output indicator, you have to be very careful and not double count the outputs. So if you are in one work package, you are targeting 3 pilot actions, for example, you shouldn't and yeah, you don't count them again, because then it will count twice the very same pilot actions. So please be careful not to double count. Don't do any duplication in your indicators, so to say.
That's really important, because otherwise you have applied the indicators in a wrong way. So keep that in mind. And after that takeaway note, I have another one for you when we move on to the expression of interest. Because in an expression of interest, there are no deliverables required. That is really important to keep in mind, because when we look at the next slide, it's again activities, deliverables, outputs, but at the expression of interest stage, no deliverables. And my message to you is, please do not compensate the lack of deliverables with outputs. Do not replace deliverables with outputs, because they are simply not the same. As we've said, deliverables are quantifying the activities, whereas outputs are one step further. They are really capturing they are capturing the consequence of having carried out the activities in your work or in a specific work package. So take that note home with you. However, if you are at the expression of interest stage and you're realizing while working at your application form that, we think we already have some deliverables identified, that's absolutely fine. You are very welcome to note them down, keep them, also work on them, but do not put them into the UI, because you cannot. However, they might become relevant at a later stage in case you move on from the expression of interest to the full application form. So outputs are not deliverables. Please keep that in mind. And I think we have had enough takeaway messages for now. So maybe we should move on with not indicators. We've talked about indicators, but with result indicators.
Yes, but before we do so, I just remind you that please, if you have any questions, go to Slido, enter the code you can see on the left-hand side at the bottom, 332719.
Right-hand side.
Right-hand side, sorry.
Right-hand side.
Right-hand side.
Yeah.
Yes, that was about the work packages, right? But we are not ending here. The intervention logic doesn't stop with outputs and output indicators, but more importantly, your projects will deliver results. And what would be the outputs without results? I mean, that's not an open question. Actually, a vast majority of the projects will have to look at outputs and results. This is a successful application or a project, so to say. They only work well together. What are the results? Per definition, we can say that a result is an immediate advantage created by the project, telling us the benefits of using the outputs produced. So you see the difference here. An output is a product in a work package, well thought through, plans, implemented, sometimes at the end resulting in a document at hand or something physical or whatever, but it is a product at the end. Now, results are the use of those products, and those results will tell us how successful the project will be as planned. And you have three result indicators next to the output indicators. The first two being the solutions taken up by organizations. So it is in connection with the output indicator, pilot actions implemented, solutions created. And the other one being joint strategies and action plans taken up by organizations, which is actually in connection with the output indicator strategies action plans created. The third one will be presented by Jenny later on. It is about capacity building of organizations cooperating with within the project and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in our example, where you will have solutions tested in pilots, the storm damage pilots, you consider the result indicator saying solutions taken up by the organizations. And the usual question I have, Jenny, what do we see in the monitoring system?
I can show you, Peter.
Sorry. Yeah, this is just one more slide about results, but this is just explaining the very same we have talked about. So the work package level created outputs contributing to the results, what you select on project level in a next section of the monitoring system in the application form.
Yeah, yes. And that is it. So if you get to the point where you work with results indicators, you of course have to create a results indicator not create it, but you have to put in a new results indicator by clicking the button new results. And this is where you end up then. So at the first section where it says results indicator, you have to choose a predefined results indicator. Peter has already mentioned there are 3 of them. And then what is really important for you here, the big red circle again, that's a help text that you get when you're working in the online monitoring system. And that is pointing out which results indicators you can choose. And that is based on which kind of output indicators you have chosen at an earlier stage at the different work package levels. So look at that when working with the results indicators. You need to identify a target for the results indicator, for the respective results indicator you're putting in. And last but not least, a description. Very similar to what we had before. You only have 300 character limits. So please, prepare carefully what you want to put in here and which message you want to get out. So you're welcome to refer to the output indicators. But as the main parts, what we would like to see here, you should really highlight which kind of solutions, strategies, or action plans will be taken up, or of course, the capacity building indicator, which we will come to later on. Then you should explain by whom they will be taken up, how, and where. And since you only have 300 character limits, this is already a lot we are asking you to put in here. But I think this is what you should keep in mind, at least when filling out this description. And then when we go to the next slide, we can see the example that Peter and I have worked on. So we have worked with the results indicators, solutions taken up or upscaled, and joint strategies and action plans taken up. You can see we've provided a short description. Of course, in your case, this should be much more elaborated, and we have identified targets for this. And then on the next slide, this is also what you will see when you move on in your application form. After you've filled out the work packages, including the outputs, plus the result indicators, you will get to that overview table here. It depends on which application form you're working in. So in the green box at the top, you can see when working with an EOI or in an expression of interest, then it's the section C41. When you're working in a small scale project, then it's C51. And in a full application, as you can see here on the screenshot, it's C61. That's the overview table about outputs and results. And I will just make one example now, since we have limited time. Look at the first red box there. You can see it's focusing on the pilot actions developed jointly and implemented in projects. So focusing on that output indicator. And it has taken our 3 pilots from the work package and listed it here as storm damage pilots. If you have more pilots in the same work package or in additional work package, it would list them below. And then you end up with a certain total amount there in that overview. And then you have the respective result indicator listed below, and you have to decide how many solutions you are expecting to be taken up or upscaled by organization. And the same goes for the other output indicator, but I will not go into detail here. I think we can move on, Peter, to something that some participants might have seen already in the online monitoring system.
Which is a notification in the monitoring system. If you see this warning message or notification, it doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot submit your application, but it is a kind reminder, to please choose a result indicator to your output indicators and think beyond the output, think beyond the product, what you are actually will produce in a work packages, and look at the take up of this product later on.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, that it is. But now that we look at the screenshot, maybe I would like to already mention here that on the next slide, we will focus on the capacity building indicator, which is connected to this output indicator here, organizations cooperating across borders. And you might think, output indicator, organizations cooperating across borders. I haven't come across this. And this is because the online monitoring system is automatically measuring this for you, because it measures the amount of partners that are working together in your project. However, you have to manually fill in the respective result indicator about capacity building. So increased institutional capacity at certain organizations. And I would just like to make a very short example, and that is, in case you have 10 organizations in your project, I would argue that the target for the respective result indicator would be higher, because it's not only measuring the organizations with increased institutional capacity within your project, but also counting external organizations. So think about it when drafting your application form, and do not forget about this capacity building indicator. And last but not least, I think I have another takeaway message for you before we slowly move on with the question and answer part of our webinar. We have talked a lot about titles and descriptions that you have to provide for example, work packages, activities, output indicators, and so on and so forth. When looking at titles for outputs, please do not use the titles of the results indicators for describing the outputs, because that will mix up the whole concept of output indicators and results indicators. Keep that in mind when working in your application form. And I think those were enough warning or takeaway messages. I think now we should move on with some setups, some examples, right, of how work packages can be structured.
Exactly, and what you said in or explained at this slide, that those descriptions or definitions should be project specific. So not using the predefined text, what we have in somewhere else in the program and in the application form. The same goes to the indicator application or indicator as applied by you, because it is really up to you according to your needs. How you structure your work packages in the application form. That's a very simple model, having two work packages, obviously this is a regular project, so not a small scale project where we have only one work package, but we will have in this example 2 work packages with 2 different outputs measured by 2 different output indicators and delivering 2 different results measured by 2 different result indicators. That's the simplest possible structure. Now you can opt for this one. This is, for the sake of simplicity, 2 work packages creating outputs measured by the same output indicator and resulting in results measured by the connected result indicator. A bit more complex structure could be this model when you have more work packages. In the first work package, producing an output measured by 1 output indicator and going to the direction of the results measured by the connected result indicator. The other 2 work packages in this example will contribute to the same output indicator and the same result indicator. For example, 2 different types of pilots implemented in those 2 work packages. And as I said, for small-scale projects, there is only 1 work plan, meaning in 1 work plan you can list all of your activities and choose all of your outputs measured by the output indicators, following by result indicators. It is not limiting you to look at only 1 output indicator or 1 output. You can still aim at 2 outputs or more outputs with different output indicators contributing to different results. This is a specificity for the small-scale projects. Maybe I haven't covered all the possibilities, but these are just some examples just to ensure you that you have plenty of opportunities how you structure your application.
I think it's really a good illustration to say the intervention logic is a framework, and also the indicators, it's a framework that you are supposed to apply in the way that is best possible for your project, for the delivery of your project. So there are plenty of options. Those were only examples, but I think the main message we want to get across also today is try to keep it simple also, because what do you want with 500 pilots? And why do you need maybe 300 strategies, action plans? The amount of indicators, outputs, results, of course, depends on your specific project needs and how your project is built up. But we as a program, we can say we are not necessarily looking at quantity, but at quality that will make a difference in the end. And I think on that happy note, let's move on with the question and answers.
Yeah, and at this point, I stop sharing my screen, and I would like to ask my colleague Katarina to share the screen with the Slido. Again, please go to Slido if you have questions. Enter the code 332719, and then you can pose your question. And we will go one by one.
So
how many? Yeah. How many output indicators can I apply per work package? My answer to this would be if you can cluster your outputs as the 2 output indicators we have, then I would say 2 output indicators will cover your work package outputs.
But there's, again, as we have shown on the slides, also the option that you have only 1 output indicator, for example, the ones on pilots applied for 1 work package, and the one on strategies, action plans then applied for the second work package, for example. So it really depends on your individual structure, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you can separate in the different type of outputs in different work packages, or you can actually choose two different outputs and output indicators in one work package if it makes sense in the work package.
Yeah. I hope that was the answer to your question. So let's move on with the next one then. We can see on the screen, how strict should we be with the result organizations with increased institutional capacity? I'm not entirely sure I can answer that question because I don't know what you mean with strict. I can just tell you that we are, so the indicator is in the application form, you can choose it. And then when it comes to reporting at a later stage, and you are saying that, let's say, 3 organizations outside of your partnership will have increased institutional capacity, then you will have to report on that. So you have to deliver a short information in the online monitoring system. We are currently working on it, how you can report on it. But yeah, so you can't get away with just saying we are having 3 organizations with increased institutional capacity. You have to report on it at a later stage. I hope that answers your question. If not, please put another question in. Let's move on to the next one.
If I have a program of pilots, let's say with 10 pilots, how should I write the outputs and results? Pilot.
I would argue, the pilot is actually the output indicator. So you come up with the output indicator, 1 pilot, for example. When it then comes to the result indicators, you have to mention how many solutions you think will be taken up or upscaled. So I think that's the connection between the pilot output and the result solution taken up, what you're trying to mention here in your question. That would be my interpretation. What do you say, Peter?
Yeah, if we are talking about one solution, for example, as your example shows, and you think that 10 organizations will use this solution, it is not necessarily the result indicator we are looking for, because they are using the same solution. So then the result indicator would be 1 as well. If you think that this solution, what you produced in one of the work packages, can be upscaled beyond this one solution, then you can identify maybe more solutions taken up. But according to my understanding, the majority of the projects will look at solutions and taking up or making efforts towards those solutions to be taken up.
I hope that was clear, but it's always the connection between a pilot as an output indicator and a solution taken up. So there is the connection between the pilot and then the solution being taken up. So the pilot basically being taken up. That's the connection there. I think we should leave it at that and move on to the next one. Let's see. Maybe I just want to add something, because it might be difficult for us to really grasp what you are looking for here, but I would argue, in case you're still in doubt, you're welcome to put another question in, but you're also welcome to contact us as project advisors at the Joint Secretariat, so we can help you a bit better maybe with our answers. The next question is, can an output be the same as a deliverable produced under one of the main activities of the work package? And the clear answer is no. Deliverables and outputs are something different. And that's really something you have to keep in mind. So you are always looking at an activity that you carry out in a work package. At a full application stage, you have to quantify it with a deliverable. At an expression of interest, you just leave it as it is, only the activity. And the output is then the consequence of having carried out all these activities per work package. That really needs to be very clearly said here.
Yeah, maybe you think about something that you identify a certain activity formulated very similar to an output. For example, implementation of the pilot action, okay. Whatever pilot we are talking about. I'm pretty sure that still you have other activities in the work package, like preparation of the pilot, as we just showed in the example, meetings, workshops, participating external events, communication activities tailored to this work package. As Jenny said, then you have to separate those two things. So the activity is measured by the deliverables and the outputs. If it is formulated the same way, I think it is. It will be understood when we see the whole application. What did you mean? But having just one activity with a deliverable, which is the same with the output, it is rather a no-go.
No, but as Peter has said, you can have more or several activities that are contributing towards then the output indicator of a work package. That's possible and true, and that's also what we have in our example. So when you go back to our presentation, you will also see that. Good, next one. Yeah, so the question is about the previous question, very good. How will increased institutional capacity be measured? Is survey, partnerships, judgment. So the idea at the moment, it's not implemented in the online monitoring system yet, is really that there should be a kind of survey really, that it is described which kind of organization has increased the institutional capacity in which field, and so on and so forth. So certain questions have to be answered yes, but it's not entirely 100% implemented, so I can't really tell you more about it, but you should really clearly think already at application stage which kind of organizations are realistic to participate in your project activities, and by that being able to increase their capacity.
And I think at this point it's very important to say that you have to have a certain methodology behind the indicators. So if you say that 100 municipalities will take up this and that solution, and by that they will increase their capacities, you have to explain it. How do you measure and how do you follow this in reality? So methodology should be there.
But it's a very good point that you bring this up and that you're also asking again. And I think we will focus on that during the next couple of days, weeks, so that we will hopefully be able to provide you more information on it. And I've just made a note, so please wait for further guidance on this as soon as possible.
The next one.
The next one. Do you want to?
Can one activity lead to more than one deliverable, internal event, report, communication event? I would say the best possible way, if you separate those activities, having a clear connection with the deliverable, because then we won't be confused. What are we measuring here? If you have an internal event, then it is an activity for me is discussion with partners. If you have a plan for the work package implementation, then I would say it is a kind of a report type of deliverable, and then you have one. Communication event, again, if you have certain stages of the project implementation, you will have maybe 3 communication events, and then you will have the target of the deliverable, external or internal events, whatever it is about. But you separate those activities.
Mm. And you can always make that clear in the description that you have to provide per activity. Exactly. So you can really describe what it is you are going to do and then quantify it with a certain deliverable. I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the next one. Can a policy brief with advice to adopt regulations be an output indicator? We can assure that it will be received, but not that it will be implemented. Well, my answer to this would be that a policy brief can count as an output indicator. Definitely. It would count as a strategy rather. No, also as an, it depends on, on the definition, on the content. But yeah, it can definitely count as an output indicator. And about your second sentence, I can just say, when looking at the output indicators, you're looking about, Peter has said a couple of times, at the products. So really what you're going to produce. So for example, this policy brief, when looking at the results indicators, you're then looking at how many organizations are going to take that strategy action plan up. So at the output level, you don't really have to think about who will take it up and who will implement it or what will happen afterwards. But when then, of course, and you cannot avoid it, you will reach that point where you have to think about the resulting indicator. Then you have to carefully think, how high are the chances that something will happen with this policy brief and that it will have an impact? That's my answer.
Yeah. And again, I think you need to be very careful when designing or establishing targets for those result indicators. And that's why I'm saying that you have to have some methodology behind how are you going to get there? How do you achieve these target values? Not that how to say, ambitious plans are that you have a certain amount of outputs, 3 strategies, and you say only one will be taken up. Then it is a question mark. Why is it less than the outputs created? So that way you should be careful not to overplan and not to underestimate your results.
But there might be reasons for why you think a certain strategy, a certain action plan will not be taken up. So if you can provide us with this insider knowledge that you have, that's absolutely fine. So it's really on you to decide, this is what we are going to produce and what do we think will be taken up later on as part of the results indicator then.
Exactly. Approximately we have 5 minutes back. So let's move on to the next question.
Again, about the capacity building one, organizations with increased capacity. If the organization has undergone a learning process, this is defined as more than one instance of exchange. I guess the last bit is taken from our fact sheet. And yes, if it's taken from our fact sheet, then that is the case. I'm really sorry, I can't remember the definition by heart right now, but I can only refer you to the fact sheet 22, because you can find all definitions of the output indicators as well as the result indicators in there. And if there are still questions about it, please contact us afterwards or directly. Anything else to add? No. Okay, then maybe another one. You go ahead.
What is the target for a report as deliverable? The amount of reports or the amount of people that will receive the report? The first one.
Yeah, clear
Easy.
answer. So maybe
the
one
amount
more.
Of reports.
Ooh, so maybe one more and then we will close. Where can I look up the list of possible deliverables and output indicators outside the OMS? Is there a fact sheet on it? Very good question. Yes, it's fact sheet 22, and you can find the list of 6 deliverables in there, plus the 3 output indicators and also the respective result indicators.
Yeah, to add a short addition to that, you will have the category other deliverable, where you can define any specific deliverable you think doesn't fit to the predefined list of other deliverables.
Yeah. So what do you think, Peter?
I think we can take one more.
One more.
Yeah,
Katharina, one more. Do you have one more for us? Is there a max number of activities per work package, Peter?
No.
No, but of course, it's like what I had mentioned with, do you need 500 pilots? Do you need 300 action plan strategies? Keep it simple. Keep it down to an amount that also our member states representatives can understand. So I would argue 3, 4, 5 maximum work packages. That's only a guess, but there is officially no limit, but keep it simple and keep it logical.
Yeah,
That's
3 to 5 work packages is the range we are looking at. Of course, if it is justified and there is one more, then we won't say that because we don't have any formal requirements in this regard. Activities per work packages, I would say the same what Jenny said. Cluster the activities as much as possible. Look at the deliverables, and then you will have a clearer picture. How do you cluster your activities, and then you will be able to define less activities per work package, providing us a more concise picture of the project.
Yeah. And I think we should unfortunately close down our question and answer session. What we will do is we will look at how many questions we have left and answer them afterwards in writing. I think this is what we will do, but we will discuss. We will definitely get back to you on the open questions, and maybe we can get back to our PowerPoint presentation for a second.
And then I will share our screen again. Thank you, Katharina.
Yes.
For managing the Slido.
Yeah, and I think the last bit we want to tell you is that these are our contact details. Really, we hope that this little part of the chessboard has become a bit clearer to you, and that you will have an easier job now when moving on with working in your application forms. Last but not least, there is an important comment from my colleague.
Two comments actually. That you can see 3 names on the slide, but we have very nice colleagues with the same role as project advisors. Jesper, Hans, Marie. Did I mention everybody? That we can help. So reach out to the secretariat. That is the main message here. That we are here to help you. Don't hesitate to contact the secretariat whenever you get to the point where you have something specific and you cannot really decide which way to go. Please contact us. In case of small-scale projects and expression of interest, which has a submission deadline the 7th of March, we are not able to provide any more content-related advice, but a question whether it is an activity or a deliverable or an output, we consider it as a technical advice. So you still can contact us. Otherwise, you can also contact your national contact points throughout the whole application process. So again, please contact us. This is like an advertisement. Call me, call us. Whenever you have questions regarding this part of the application or any part of the application form you are
and in case you have general questions, you can also find the link on the last slide here that will guide you to one part of our website where you can really find all sorts of relevant information for the first call.
Thank you very much. Thank you for active participation, posing your questions. These were really interesting ones. Again, the recording of this webinar will be available soon on the program website, together with the previous webinar and the fact sheet number 22.
Yeah, very important.
And good luck with your applications. we are really looking forward to see the first call applications very soon.
Yeah, so good luck and thank you very much for joining us today, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.